Few television dramas have managed to carve out a cultural identity as deeply rooted as Little House on the Prairie. Airing from 1974 to 1983, the series arrived at a time when American television was shifting between the nostalgic innocence of earlier family programming and a growing appetite for more realistic, socially aware storytelling. Set in the late 19th century frontier town of Walnut Grove, the show followed the Ingalls family as they navigated hardship, community life, and moral challenges. What made it stand out was not just its period setting, but the emotional accessibility it offered to viewers who saw in it a reflection of family, perseverance, and moral grounding. Michael Landon, who portrayed Charles Ingalls, became the face of the series and helped shape its tone as something both comforting and frequently emotionally intense. Alongside him, a young Melissa Gilbert brought Laura Ingalls Wilder to life in a way that anchored the show's perspective through a child's evolving understanding of the world. Over its long run, the series developed a loyal audience that treated Walnut Grove almost like a real place. Even decades later, discussions of the show often center not only on its storytelling, but on its emotional resonance and its willingness to engage with difficult themes under the guise of a family drama. It is within this blend of warmth and realism that its legacy firmly resides. Walnut Grove as a living television world, one of the most distinctive achievements of Little House on the Prairie, was its creation of Walnut Grove as a fully realized, emotionally lived-in world. Unlike many period dramas that rely heavily on episodic storytelling without long-term continuity, the series allowed its setting to feel like a growing, changing community. The town was not just a backdrop, it was a narrative organism where relationships, conflicts, and shared struggles shaped its identity over time. The Ingalls family served as the emotional anchor, but the supporting characters, teachers, shopkeepers, neighbors, and rivals contributed to a sense of collective life that viewers could follow. Season after season, the schoolhouse, the church, and the mercantile were not just set pieces. They became symbolic centers of learning, morality, and survival in a harsh frontier environment. This sense of place was reinforced by the show's consistent visual language, from open landscapes to intimate interior scenes that emphasized family closeness. Over time, audiences began to associate Walnut Grove with stability and moral clarity, even when individual episodes dealt with suffering or injustice. The town's evolution mirrored the passage of time in a way that made viewers feel they were growing alongside its residents. This deep immersion is part of why the series maintained such strong emotional engagement across nearly a decade of broadcast television. Characters who felt like family rather than fiction at the heart of Little House on the Prairie was its ability to make fictional characters feel like extended family members to its audience. Charles and Caroline Ingalls, portrayed by Michael Landon and Karen Grassel, were written not as idealized figures, but as working parents who struggled with financial pressure, illness, and moral dilemmas. Their parenting was grounded in patience and discipline, but also vulnerability, which made their experiences relatable across generations of viewers. Laura Ingalls, played by Melissa Gilbert, became the emotional lens of the series. Through her growth from childhood into adulthood, audiences experienced the frontier not as a distant historical setting, but as a lived reality shaped by curiosity, hardship, and resilience. Secondary characters such as Almanzo Wilder, Nellie Olson, and various townspeople added complexity and contrast, often serving as catalysts for lessons about prejudice, ambition, or forgiveness. The strength of the writing lay in its ability to let characters evolve gradually, allowing relationships to deepen rather than reset each episode. This continuity gave viewers a sense of emotional investment rarely seen in episodic television of the era. Over time, the boundaries between viewer and character softened, creating the impression that Walnut Grove was not just a story world, but a shared emotional space that audiences revisited weekly as if returning home. Michael Landon's creative control and vision. Michael Landon was more than the leading actor on Little House on the Prairie. He was its creative engine. Serving as executive producer, writer, and frequent director, Landon shaped the series in ways that ensured a consistent emotional and moral tone. His influence extended across casting decisions, story development, and even production design, giving him a level of control uncommon in network television at the time. This authority allowed him to maintain a clear vision, a show that balanced family values with serious exploration of human struggle. However, such extensive involvement also meant that the series often reflected his personal sensibilities, particularly his focus on redemption, emotional catharsis, and moral resolution. Landon's storytelling style leaned heavily into sentiment, but it also did not shy away from difficult subject matter. He believed television could be both entertaining and instructive, and he used Walnut Grove as a vehicle to explore that belief. Behind the scenes, this level of control sometimes led to creative disagreements, as collaborators navigated the balance between network expectations and Landon's artistic direction. Still, his leadership ensured that the show maintained a coherent identity throughout its long run. Even when episodes varied in tone or subject matter, the underlying emotional framework remained consistent, reinforcing Landon's imprint on every aspect of the series. Behind the scenes tensions and production challenges. Despite its wholesome on-screen reputation, Little House on the Prairie experienced its share of behind the scenes tensions that reflected the pressures of long-running network television. As the series progressed into its later seasons, creative differences emerged between Michael Landon and other members of the production team, including co-creator Ed Friendly. These disagreements often centered on narrative direction, character focus, and the balance between episodic storytelling and more dramatic arcs. Landon's increasing control over writing and directing also shifted the collaborative dynamic, which occasionally created friction within the production environment. At the same time, cast members navigated the challenges of long-term contracts, evolving storylines, and concerns about recognition and compensation. Karen Grassel, who portrayed Laura Ingalls, was among those who later spoke about frustrations related to pay equity and professional respect, reflecting broader industry issues of the era. These tensions did not define the series, but they did influence its later years, contributing to shifts in tone and cast dynamics. Like many successful television productions, the pressure to sustain quality over nearly a decade inevitably exposed creative and interpersonal strains. Yet despite these challenges, the show continued to deliver emotionally resonant storytelling, demonstrating the resilience of both its cast and its production framework. Personal relationships and off-screen complexity, the off-screen lives of those involved in Little House on the Prairie, added another layer of complexity to its legacy. Michael Landon's personal relationships, particularly his affair with makeup artist Cindy Clerico during his marriage, became a point of emotional tension within the cast and crew. These developments were not widely publicized at the time in the same way modern celebrity news circulates, but they were known within industry circles and affected interpersonal dynamics on set. For Melissa Gilbert, who had developed a close mentor, like bond with Landon, the situation was reportedly deeply difficult and led to a period of emotional distance between them. Over time, however, reconciliation occurred, illustrating the complicated mixture of personal loyalty, professional respect, and human imperfection that existed behind the scenes. These relationships did not diminish the show's on-screen impact, but they did reveal the reality that even productions centered on family values are created by individuals navigating their own personal challenges. The contrast between Walnut Grove's moral storytelling and the imperfect lives of its creators is part of what makes the show's history so layered. It reminds audiences that television narratives often carry emotional truths shaped by the people who build them, even when those truths are not visible on screen. Tackling difficult themes in a family form, at one of the most groundbreaking aspects of Little House on the Prairie was its willingness to address serious social issues within a family-oriented Framework: at a time when many television dramas avoided controversial topics, the series regularly explored themes such as racism, disability, addiction, poverty, and violence. These storylines were not treated as background details, but were central to episode narratives, often placing characters in morally and emotionally challenging situations. The show frequently used Walnut Grove as a microcosm of broader American society, allowing historical settings to reflect contemporary concerns in subtle ways. Episodes dealing with prejudice against Native Americans, the struggles of individuals with disabilities, or the impact of alcoholism demonstrated a commitment to storytelling that extended beyond simple moral lessons. Instead, the series often presented difficult questions without easy answers, encouraging viewers to engage with complexity rather than comfort alone. This approach helped distinguish it from other family dramas of the era and contributed to its longevity. While the tone remained accessible to general audiences, the subject matter often carried emotional weight that lingered beyond the episode itself. In doing so, the series expanded the boundaries of what family television could address without losing its core audience. Controversial episodes and emotional storytelling, certain episodes of Little House on the Prairie became particularly memorable for their emotional intensity and willingness to confront unsettling subject matter. Among the most discussed was the multi-part storyline involving Sylvia, which dealt with traumatic experiences and left a lasting impression on viewers due to its stark portrayal of vulnerability and danger. These episodes were notable not only for their subject matter, but for their departure from the more comforting tone associated with family television. Rather than relying on moral simplicity, they often placed characters in situations where outcomes were painful or unresolved. This narrative choice contributed to the show's reputation for balancing sentimentality with realism. Other episodes explored themes such as loss, illness, and moral compromise, often pushing characters into emotionally charged decisions that reflected the unpredictability of frontier life. While some viewers found these episodes difficult, others appreciated the honesty with which they were presented. Over time, these more intense storylines became central to discussions about the show's legacy, demonstrating that its impact was not limited to nostalgia, but also included a willingness to engage with discomfort. This combination of emotional accessibility and narrative seriousness helped ensure that the series remained culturally significant long after its original broadcast. The final chapter and the destruction of Walnut Grove, the conclusion of Little House on the Prairie, extended beyond its final regular season into the 1984 television movie The Last Farewell, which delivered one of the most dramatic endings in television history. In the story, Walnut Grove faces a land dispute with a powerful developer, leading the townspeople to make a drastic decision. Rather than allow their community to be taken over, they choose to destroy it themselves. This culminates in the destruction of the town's central structures through controlled explosive demolition, symbolically erasing the physical representation of their shared history. The decision was both narrative and practical, as the production team chose to dismantle the existing set to prevent its reuse, creating a definitive end to the series' visual world. Michael Landon's involvement in shaping this conclusion reflected his desire for closure that matched the emotional intensity of the show's themes. The result was a finale that shocked many viewers due to its stark contrast with the series' typically gentle tone. Instead of fading away, Walnut Grove ended in a moment of dramatic finality, leaving a lasting impression on audiences who had followed the characters for years. The ending has since become one of the most discussed conclusions in television history. Myths, memory, and television legend in the years following the show's conclusion, Little House on the Prairie became surrounded by myths and simplified narratives that sometimes distorted its actual production history. One of the most persistent misconceptions was that the series finale was banned or removed from circulation due to its dark tone. In reality, the episode aired and continued to be broadcast in syndication, although programming choices often favored lighter episodes for daytime audiences. The dramatic destruction of Walnut Grove also contributed to exaggerated retellings, with some accounts overstating the scale or circumstances of the set demolition. Over time, these myths blended with fan memory, creating a version of events that was more symbolic than literal. This process is common in long-running television history, where emotional impact often reshapes factual detail. Despite these distortions, the core truth remains: the ending was deliberately dramatic and intended to provide closure. Audience reactions were divided, with some appreciating the boldness of the conclusion and others preferring the preservation of the town's nostalgic image. The continued discussion of the finale reflects its enduring place in television culture, where memory and storytelling often intertwine. Lasting legacy of a complex family drama, the legacy of Little House on the Prairie is defined by its contradictions as much as its achievements. On one hand, it is remembered as a wholesome family series filled with moral lessons, scenic landscapes, and emotionally reassuring storytelling. On the other, it was a show willing to confront difficult realities, sometimes in ways that challenged its own comforting image. This duality is central to its continued relevance. Its influence can be seen in later television dramas that seek to balance emotional accessibility with serious thematic content. The performances of Michael Landon, Melissa Gilbert, and the supporting cast remain central to its identity, but so too does the creative ambition that drove its storytelling. Even the controversies and behind the scenes complexities contribute to a fuller understanding of its production history. Ultimately, the series endures because it captured something fundamental about human experience: the coexistence of hardship and hope within everyday life. Whether through quiet family moments or dramatic narrative turns, it consistently returned to questions of resilience, morality, and belonging. Decades later, it remains a reference point for how television can shape emotional memory, leaving behind not just episodes, but a shared cultural landscape that continues to be revisited and reinterpreted